So today's the third day of Kislev, the fourth day of December. And we're in chapter 32. 32, what? Okay.
December 4th or December 5th?
5th, yeah. 60 days after the Tkufa. So. So we said that from wisdom, as we know, it goes down to the other 9 sfirot in the world of Atzilus and emanation, and then it goes down from there into Bia. So it's in the middle of 266. ובא על ידה נמשך אחר כך לשאר 9 ספירות שכולם מקבלים מהרת אור אין סוף על ידי החוכמה דווקא, וכן מהם נמשך אחר כך בביאה קנה. I think we've seen this sentence at least 4 times. This exact sentence. וזהו שכתוב בזוהר, and this is what the Zohar means when it says באורייתא יתקיים עלמא, that the world is sustained by Torah. What do you mean? So he says the wisdom of Hashem. The Torah is Hashem's wisdom, and everything comes through wisdom. So that's what it means.
You started a bit earlier. My sign says "Vilulei shaya razu."
Okay. ולולא שהיה הרע זו מתלבשת תחילה בחוכמה, לא היו יכולים להכילו רק כלל. Like we said, that wisdom has a special quality because of its bittul, because of its self-nullification. It can contain this energy that nothing else can contain. And from there it can transfer it on to the other sfirot. וזהו עוטה אור כסלמה, אורה זו תורה שנקרא אור כנ"ל. And that's what the pasuk means when it says that he garns, meaning that God takes like a garment on him the light. He uses it like a garment. So what do we mean by that? That there's, when we say that something turns into a garment, we mean that there's some way to hold on to it. There's some way to connect with it. If it's just like I go out into the sun and I sunbathe, so I can't capture the sun. I don't have chlorophyll. Okay. I don't have any way to take the light from the sun and turn it into energy for myself. Not yet, anyway. Soon, maybe. But right now,
you use it like an energy source.
Right.
Okay.
A plant can use it because it has chlorophyll. Even when I eat chlorophyll from plants, I can't do it because it has to be live chlorophyll, not dead chlorophyll. So we have no way to turn it into a garment. We have no way of turning it into something we can wear. To say something I can wear means it's a makif. It's not yet internalized by a plant. It's even better because it doesn't just wear it. It's not just external. It even integrates it into itself. But even just to have it as a garment, like if the example would be, I would go into a place where they're talking in Spanish. Since I don't know Spanish, so it's not even a garment for me. It's even I can't. I hear the sounds; they don't do anything. But if I go into a place where they're speaking my language, so even if I'm not paying attention, I still have some connection to what's going on. I still know. I know where I am. Like I have myself about me. So here he says that Chochma is like Ote Or Kasalma. Chochma is able, it doesn't integrate it yet, he says, but it's able to capture the light of the infinite, the revelation of Hashem, the infinite revelation of Hashem, to some degree, like a garment. And this light is Torah. And when it becomes a garment, then we call it the Torah. Okay? And if we integrate it, it's even better. But it's already something. It's already something you can touch. How do we see that it was just a garment? So when we received the Torah, we could only hear, right, the first two sayings of Hashem, Anochi and Lo Yelecha, and everything else was too much. So even that little bit was already above our ability, our capacity to carry. והיא נקראת גם כן סלמה, שהיא בחינת לבוש הפנימי, שבה מתלבש אור אינסוף ברוך הוא. And there's another thing to this garment, that, again, that's what we were saying, but the point about this garment is not only that I wear it, but that it's a uniform that came from somewhere else. It's Hashem using this garment to be able to transfer to me some of Him. What do I mean, some of Him? The Torah is some of Him. That the Torah and Hashem, to some degree, are one thing. And then from that garment, from Chochmah, it comes down to the other 9 Sfirot in emanation, in Atzilus. שכולם מקבלים הערת אור אינסוף על ידי החוכמה דווקא, וכן מהם נמשך אחר כך בביאה. And then from there it goes down to the 3 lower worlds, to creation, formation, and action. וזהו שכתוב בזוהר, בראית יתקיים עלמא. And that's what the Zohar means when it says that the Torah sustains the world. וכן כתיב עולם חסד ייבנה. And it also says that the world is it's structured, it's built from loving kindness. What do we mean? היינו על ידי התורה שנקראת תורת חסד. There's 3 types of Torah. There's Torah's Chesed, there's Torah's Emes, and there's another Torah, Torah Tmima. That's Chesed, Torah Temet, Torah Tmima, there's Torah Hashem also. There's another one I'm thinking of, I missed it. Torah Temet, Torah Chesed. There's another one I'm missing. There's a threesome. The Torah Temet, Torah Chesed go together, and there's another one that goes with it. Torah, I don't know, I don't remember. Okay, we'll see in a second. Now here we're talking about it as garment. Then it becomes food. In any case, what do we mean to say here? He says that the Torah is the loving kindness with which God sustains, He constructs the world. In the beginning, He constructs it with it, and then it becomes emes, it becomes like the foundation of the world. It becomes what the world is sustained by. So that's more like what we said before, that it's a garment. And here, from a garment, it becomes internalized. It's not just levush pnimi, it becomes pnimiyut mamash. It becomes something internalized. As David HaMelech says, and your Torah is in my innards. What do we mean by that? That it becomes part of my being. And this is, again, the simplest analogy to this that's usually brought in modern Chassidus is plants using the light of the sun. That you can use light and integrate it, and it becomes part of you. And then it becomes mazon. It becomes it's not just mazon in the sense that it becomes food, sustaining you. It's the beginning of the whole food chain. Everything is dependent on it. So that's what it means that Torah sustains the world. In the same way that the sun sustains life physically, the Torah sustains spiritual life. And when you look at it, the more you learn history, the more you see this, that the changes in reality, the big changes in reality, happened because of Torah learning. Everything in the world changed the moment that we received the Torah. Because before that, it wasn't so clear like in what direction Avram's whole project was going to go. Without the Torah, the people would not have become a people. The Torah made us into a people. The moment we became a people, that was the beginning of the end of idolatry. Because that was the whole program. That's how the Rambam sets up the whole history of the Tanakh. The whole Tanakh, what's it talking about? It's talking about the eradication of idolatry. And he says the whole way that the Torah was interpreted in the first and second temple, in the first temple period, was how do you use the Torah to get out of idolatry? And once that was achieved, it was achieved by the first century BCE. It was pretty much achieved. It was pretty much finished, and then the final blow, unfortunately, came in a bad way. But it still happened. It came through Christianity. Christianity, in the end, and Islam, they destroyed idolatry. So Christianity did it for the West, and in the end, Islam did it for a great deal of the East. But those were what we call surrogate children.
The precursors were
the what?
Pagans.
The who?
The precursors of Christians in Europe were pagans.
Right, but then they're gone. Because Christianity got rid of them.
But they were idolaters to
right.
begin with.
They finished them. That's what we're saying.
The Rambam in the end of the Hilchot said, prepare the way, even though they made some mistakes.
A lot of
We're
mistakes.
saying the opposite. We're saying that
that Christianity was, in a sense, a bridge for them, opposed to
a bridge to get into
idolaters.
To get into monotheism.
But you said that was a final blow. Maybe I misunderstood your whole
So
whole.
the whole world was idolatrous,
Yes.
which is terrible
Yeah,
practices.
right.
Like they're cannibalistic, human sacrifice, all that. And monotheism pushed it out. So we did a lot of work.
Yeah.
And then at the very end, when we were supposed to do the end of the work, so we faltered, and Christianity came out.
Okay.
And Christianity finished it in the West.
Finished idolatry.
Right, they finished it.
I
So it's true that a lot of people today,
No,
they
I misunderstood your.
again, it's true that Christianity still it had to make compromises.
Yeah, it's a sheep. Yeah, right.
It's a little
Yeah.
it's a little wishy-washy. It's not exactly 100% monotheism, but it's close. It's much better than what the world was like before. And when the Arabs were idolaters, they were also worse. If you can imagine that they were worse, they were. They were.
Yeah.
And so that also took out some of the edge.
Yes.
Of,
Yes.
So again, these two things, l'chatchila, like to begin with, we wouldn't have wanted them, but now that they're here, says the Rambam, like you said,
Ishmael and Esau were doing some good work.
Yeah.
right, they did some work.
Yeah.
So now we're stuck at, like the world now is 1,000,000 times better. There's still a lot of work to do. It doesn't mean that there's not work. But again, that's what it means that the Torah sustains the world spiritually.
I understand.
It took time. It
took
takes a
time.
long
It took
time.
time.
It's not like you see a plant and you're used to things happening very quickly. So you get a cucumber in 3 weeks. You get a tomato in 5 weeks. So
Torah works slower.
To change people's
slower, yeah.
world is much, much more difficult. It takes generations upon generations. But it's the same thing. It's sustaining. It's not just sustaining. It's not just the creation of the world. It's also the food. It's also the sustenance. Not just sustaining, but also sustenance. And that's what it means that the Torah is inside my innards. כי על ידי המשכת אור אינסוף בחוכמה נמשך אחר כך החיות והקיום לכל העולמות, ולכן נקרא מזון. כמו שהמזון מחבר הנפש עם הגוף, כך על ידי התורה נמשך אור אינסוף בחוכמה עילה וכל העולמות אלוהי באמצעות החוכמה. And as a sustaining food, it's not just it's not just changing the world, it's also ensuring that the spirit remains within the body. Like food, like the usual explanation is that when a person's almost dying, the thing that they need to sustain their soul and their body is food. You need to give them some sustenance, and then the soul reconnects with the body, and that's what the Torah does for us when it comes to our spiritual world. Now the sages say something else. They say this is a two-way street. That not only is the Torah sustaining us, but we're sustaining God. That the Jewish people are sustaining, they're mefarnesim, they're giving the livelihood to our Father in heaven. What do you mean? How do we give our the livelihood? That's famous from the Baal Shem Tov. The Baal Shem Tov once went to a wedding, and it was in a town where there was a very famous scholar who never went out of the shul. He always learned. He was in the base medrash all day long. And the Baal Shem Tov he wanted to speak to him. So he went into the base medrash and he said to him, Shalom Aleichem Rabbi Umuri. And he says it 2 times, 3 times. He doesn't look at him at all because he's engrossed in his learning. So finally, the Baal Shem Tov says, Madua atem mekapchim parnasato shel HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Why are you preventing God from receiving his livelihood? He didn't even say HaKadosh Baruch Hu. He said the kiviyachol, because he knew that that's how they spoke. They didn't say God. They said the as it were. Imagine calling God the as it were. Why? Because you're so distant. You distance yourself. It's out of fear. It's out of awe. You so distance yourself from Hashem that you can't talk to Him in any way. He is the as it were. As it were, he's this. As it were, he's that. Again, it's a very high level. So when he can't write all of Atzilut. It's too hard for him. So he was taken aback, this scholar, because he thought he was a peasant, because the Baal Shem Tov used to wear like peasant clothes. So he looked and he wasn't used to a peasant saying kiviyachol, and certainly not saying something like, "Why are you taking away the livelihood of Hashem?" So he started engaging him in a conversation. And then he saw this is not a simple peasant. And so he explained to him, he said that when I say to you, Shalom Aleichem, and you don't answer Aleichem Shalom or as later the Baal Shem Tov would, or earlier he tried to get into the world, the people would ask one another, how are you? And they say, blessed is Hashem, Baruch Hashem. So that's a Rochev Tehilot Yisrael, that God is carried. It's like he's sustained by the blessings of the Jewish people, the Tehilot, the praise that we give him. What's the praise? The person says, how are you? He doesn't really expect to get a long answer. But you use that opportunity to say that regardless of how things are, thank God. That itself, that's parnasa for Hashem. דהיינו שהם הממשיכים התלבשות אור אינסוף בחוכמה הילה, שזה נקרא פרנסה. כי פרנסה כוללת מזון ולבוש. So now he says, you don't even need that. This is Or Chozer. What we just described, that's Or Chozer. That's returning light, reflected light. Here, the very fact that Hashem is able to enclothe himself in Chokhmah, that itself is his parnasa. Because that's what he wants. It's like, what does a father want from his children? He wants to be involved. He wants to have impact. He wants to have a say. So he says this gives him something. This gives him something to hold on to. So how do we do this? By being in bittul. The moment that I'm in bittul, how do I become in bittul? When I learn, and I want to hear what Hashem has to say. And that was a very big deal in Chassidus, to treat the learning as if Hashem is teaching me. As if Hashem is teaching me. Every line that I merit to read is a gift from Hashem. He's teaching me something. He's giving me something. Not to see it like, oh, I have some duty that I have to perform. It's so heavy, it's so hard. But rather, this is a gift. And what does the father want? He wants to give his child a gift. So I'm giving him parnasa. I'm giving him the opportunity to fulfill his will. כדאית בכתובות. והתלבשות אור אינסוף בחוכמה הילה נקרא מזון ולבוש כנ"ל. ואיך הם ממשיכים? הנה אמרו זה גבר משה, כשעלה אמרו מצאו למלאך סנדל שיושב וקושר כתרים לקונו מתפילותיהם של ישראל, ועניין הכתרים היינו בחינת אותיות הלילים שנקראים בשם כתרים, כמו שכתוב בהקדמת זוהר בראשית. And all this we do through the letters, the supernal letters that we learn when we learn Torah. So there's a lot more here. But we said that this all goes down in the end to davening, the letters of davening, that we actually speak them. We don't just think them. And Be'ezrat Hashem, at some point we'll return to this. We have to daven to use the words, the letters. And Be'ezrat Hashem, tomorrow we'll do a review of what we did so far.
The last 3 weeks, Teres Chaim, I don't know,
Yeah.
I'm listening to all the 3 weeks about Baruch Hashem. The Rebbe writes, he writes a brochure, you forgot to write Baruch Hashem.
Oh, really?
Oh, how old?